So recently I picked up the latest expansion for Monster Hunter Rise, Sunbreak, and as someone who has played and enjoyed the base game as well as virtually every other Monster Hunter, I consider this purchase to be a no-brainer. Unfortunately, the Sunbreak expansion has really not impressed me thus far and honestly just seems like a massive step in the wrong direction for the franchise. So the main issue I had with this expansion was its balance and I suppose general difficulty level. The monsters in Sunbreak have far greater HP pools and take about twice as long to kill, which is just very annoying. Like, I understand that the draw of the franchise is having these long, drawn-out, epic boss fights, but I feel like when the fight goes on for over an hour, it becomes too much and just overly fatiguing. And there is nothing more annoying than battling a monster for the full hour only to die at the very end and have to restart the quest. And as you progress through the game, the monsters become more and more annoying and have basically no openings. This is especially the case if you like to play heavy, more slow swinging weapons such as the greatsword. As a greatsword main myself, I just found it very hard to find opening windows to deal damage to these monsters. The monsters also become far bigger in size, which makes it nearly impossible to stay out of their attack range as well as stay focused on the overall choreography of the monster. It just takes way too much of the screen, so it makes it like really hard to judge how it's attacking, where you have to move, and so on. I don't think I ever died so much in a video game, and not because I'm bad at Monster Hunter or that the AI outplayed me. The monster AI in the game is not even that good, it honestly just flails about randomly. But since the monsters are just so large in dimension, their random flailing about will just happen to hit you, and it just feels very lame. It's like if you fistfighted a blindfolded person and yet you still get your ass kicked because they're somehow able to attack in every direction at the same time. Monsters in this game will just do some unavoidable combos like lunge forward then instantly tail swipe behind them, and it just covers such a huge radius of attack. And I feel like there's not much pattern to the monsters and easy to spot openings. I don't feel like I can learn the monster, and usually I would just eventually succeed in the hunts due to acquiring some sheer brute force power. In other difficult games like Elden Ring, there are clear patterns in the boss, so when you die to something, you feel like it's your fault. Like when you die in Elden Ring, you'll be like, oh, I knew that was coming, I totally messed up there. But in Sunbreak, you just never know what BS the monster's gonna throw out next, quite honestly. And it's weird because the game is seemingly difficult as you keep getting knocked about, maybe dying a few times, but the monster feels like it's never actually attacking you. Rather, it just happens to be hitting you. I never felt like I was having a direct one-on-one encounter with a monster because the AI just doesn't directly target you at all, and it just feels very disconnected. Instead, I felt like I was putting out this beast having a total spaz attack out of its misery. And I guess when I do complete the hunt after an hour of play, it is pretty satisfying. But when I go back to see how many materials I need to get further upgrades, I just think like, oh god, don't want to do that hunt again, no thanks. The combat in the game with the new moves that Sunbreak introduced is just overall very clunky. Now I understand that Monster Hunter combat in general is clunky, which is a criticism that most have of the franchise, but at least when you learn your weapon's move pool and get some muscle memory with it, it feels a bit better. But the new moves introduced in Sunbreak completely change how every weapon is played, and any previous muscle memory you have is just not useful anymore. So the combat just reverts back to feeling very clunky, and I found myself constantly getting frustrated that my inputs felt delayed in the game. Overall, I am not impressed with the Sunbreak expansion, but I have to be honest and just acknowledge that I feel that a large part of my disappointment is due to having played Elden Ring recently. Elden Ring was such a great difficult game that it really soured my enjoyment of other games, I feel. And Sunbreak is no exception, unfortunately. It is not anywhere near as good as Elden Ring.